Hi, it's Miss House, and in this lesson 11, we will be simplifying expressions with like terms and or parentheses. So the first thing we need to do is define what like terms are. Like terms must have the same variables, one, and the same exponents on those variables. So for example, 3x squared y and negative 10x squared y are like terms. Why? Because they both have an x squared and a y. Now, if I have 3xy squared and negative 10x squared y, these are not like terms. Even though they have the same variables, notice you have a difference in your exponents. Look, here we have a y squared and here we have a y to the 1. It's understood. Here we have an x to the 1 and a x to the second, and so those don't match. So you have to have the same exponents on those variables. Now, once you have like terms can be combined by adding or subtracting. Let's see, let me get that right. Can be combined by adding or subtracting their coefficients. So let's define what coefficients are. If I have 5xy plus 7xy, first of all, those are like terms, right? Because we've got an x and a y and an x and a y, and they're both to the understood power of 1. And the coefficients are 5. Okay, it's also a factor, like we talked about in lesson 10. But a number preceding those variable factors is often called a coefficient. So here we have a coefficient. And so all we do is we combine those, 5 plus 7, 12xy. We don't change the variable factors. We do not change, so we don't add exponents or anything like that. We don't change the variable factors at all. Okay, so don't change those variable factors. So 4x squared minus 10x squared is going to be, and I'm going to put it in parentheses for a minute, 4 minus 10 times x squared. Because all we're going to do is we're going to combine those, and 4 minus 10 is a negative 6 x squared. And notice I don't change the variable factor at all. Okay? It's going to stay exactly as it was. Now let's talk a little bit about parentheses. Remember that parentheses are often used to indicate multiplication. So if I have 5 times x plus y, that means 5 times x plus 5 times y. This is called the distributive property. And the reason we know that we need to apply this is of multiplication over addition. And that addition could also be subtraction, okay? Subtract would be the same. So if it was 5xy, I'm not distributing because there's no addition or subtraction. But 5 parentheses x plus y means I have 5x plus 5y. Think about distributive. It means to give, to distribute a paper would mean to give out a paper to everybody. Well, distributive property means the same thing. Now, if I have a minus out there, let's say a minus 2 and an x minus y. I have to be careful. That's a minus 2 times x and a minus 2 times minus y. And remembering back from when we did negative, positive, and negative numbers, that's going to be a negative 2x, and this negative and a negative are going to make a positive 2y there. So you have to be really careful when you do that. You'll notice I use the dot one time, the parentheses one time. Those both mean to multiply. And so you can use those interchangeably. Now, I might have just a minus sign on the outside of parentheses. Well, what we have to know is that that's an understood minus 1. So this would be a minus 1 times a plus a minus 1 times b. So that's going to give me a negative a, and then plus a negative, remember that's a minus b. Positive and a negative will make a negative, so that's going to be minus a minus b. Well, if there's a minus sign outside of parentheses, what we really have to do is just change the signs of everything inside. So notice how that positive x is now a minus x, and the minus y is now a plus y. Okay, so now we're ready to do some examples. Example 1, simplify by adding or subtracting like terms. Well, first of all, we have like terms here, 4c minus 2c, so we have to do 4 minus 2, which would give me 2c. Example 2, simplify by adding or subtracting like terms. 2y squared minus 11y squared. Well, we've got to combine those coefficients. You can use your calculator. 2 minus 11 is minus 9, so minus 9y squared. Remember, we don't change the exponents. We only combine the coefficients. All right, number 3, 8t plus 5t squared minus t. Now, that's a minus 1t, so don't forget that. We don't write that coefficient of 1, but that means a 1. And so I'm going to combine only the ones that are like terms. So notice that 8t and minus 1t are like terms, but 5t squared is not like them. So I can't do anything with the 5t squared, but I can combine an 8 and a minus 1, which is a positive 7t. And I cannot combine these. Be careful, don't try to combine those because they're not like terms. Only like terms can be combined. Okay, so this one's a little more difficult, but look, they're all z's. See, that's a z, and that's a 1z, and that's a z, that's a z, and that's a z. So all I've got to do now is I've got to combine 1 minus 1/3 minus 1/6 minus 1/12. Now, if you've got the TI-30X2S, you can use the fraction key between all of these. And if you end up with a mixed number, which I don't think you would, but if you do second ABC to get your improper fraction, okay? So you might have to go back, let's see, integer or fraction. They'll probably take the mixed number, but second ABC it'll take something like 3/2 and change it. I'm sorry, it'll take something like 1.5. And if you press second ABC, it'll change it to 3/2. So if they want the improper fraction and it won't take the mixed number, that's what they want you to do. Now, I'm going to do this manually by getting a common denominator. And I notice that all of these will go into 12. So this is a 1/1. And I need every denominator to be a 12. So I've got to multiply the first one, top and bottom, by 12. The second one, top and bottom by 4. And that minus 1/6, top and bottom by 2. This is going to give me a 12 for every denominator. So 12/12 minus 4/12 minus 2/12 minus 1/12. So that's 12 minus 4 minus 2 minus 1 all over 12. And we've talked about the order of operations. Add, subtract, go left to right. So I've got 12 minus 4 is 8. Minus 2 is 6. Minus 1 is 5 over 12. Now don't forget, it's 5 over 12z. We're just combining these coefficients, the 1 minus 1/3, the minus 1/6, and the minus 1/12, but don't forget the z. Here they give us some like terms, and we're using decimals. Again, if there is no coefficient, understood to be a 1. So I've got two kinds of like terms here. The first two like terms are the 4 and the minus 1/2. So I've got to do a 4 minus 1/2. So integers, decimals are proper fractions. So that's what they want. They want the 3.5. When they say proper fraction, they mean that the numerator has to be smaller than the denominator. So they don't want 7 over 2. That's improper. They prefer the 3 1/2 because that's smaller and the denominator is larger. So that's what they're asking us for. So I've done the 4 minus 1/2. Now I need to do the 1 minus 4.9. Well, that's going to give me, I'll do that on my calculator, a negative 3.9. And don't forget, that's a W. So customarily, we will put the variable term first. So negative 3.9 W plus 3.5. Or it's okay to put 3.5 minus 3.9 W. Either one of those is acceptable. The first one's a little bit better because you have the variable term first. Number 6, simplify by removing parentheses and if possible combine like terms. So we have to remember that this is like a minus 1 here. So this is going to be 5 minus 1 times 3x is minus 3x, minus 1 times 7y is minus 7y. Now that's a completely acceptable answer. You could also rearrange those terms if you wanted to. Minus 3x minus 7y plus 5. But make sure you keep the sign. So the 3x has to be a minus, the 7y has to be a minus, and the 5 has to stay a positive. Because look, there's no sign in front, so it's a positive 5. So any order of the terms is fine, as long as you keep the correct sign with each term. Number 7, simplify by removing parentheses and if possible combining like terms. So it's very similar to the last one. I've got a implied minus 1 here. So I've got a 6a, a minus 5, and a plus 9b. So it's a 6a minus 5 and a plus 9b. And any order is fine. You could write 6a plus 9b minus 5. And that might, in fact, be the better format of the answer because you've got the number in the back and the two variables in alphabetical order in the front. But any order is fine as long as the 6a is positive, the 5 is minus, and the b is also positive. And no like terms. Look, we can't combine because there are no like terms. Here we have 2x in number 8 minus parentheses 8x squared plus 4x. Again, implied minus 1 is going to give me a 2x minus 8x squared minus 4x. And I do have some like terms this time. Look. That's a 2x and a minus 4x. So I'm going to bring over my minus 8x squared, and then 2 minus 4 is going to be times x, so that's a minus 2x. Minus 2x. Now, it is definitely preferable to put the higher exponent first. So the term with the highest exponent would come first. It's not wrong if you do it in the other order, but that's what's preferred. So minus x squared minus 2x. Number 9, very similar. We have a 1 there. So we're going to go 13 minus 6x plus 5. So the minus 1 times the 6x makes it a minus 6x. The minus 1 times the minus 5 makes a positive 5. And look, we now have some like terms because the numbers 13 and 5 are like terms and they can be added for 18. So negative 6x plus 18. Perfectly acceptable to write 18 minus 6x, though this is the preferable answer. It's in a little bit better format. Number 10. Well, here we have a number outside parentheses, so we've got to multiply that number times both. So this will be 3 times 8x minus 3 times 3y. So 3 times 8 is 24x, and minus 3 times 3y is minus 9y. So 24x minus 9y. Number 11, negative 6 times in parentheses 3x plus 8. That's going to be negative 6 times 3x plus negative 6 times 8. That's going to give me a negative 18x and a minus 48. Because look, it's a plus and a minus, and that makes a minus 48. Number 12. X minus 7 in parentheses 9 plus 3x. Well, order of operations, we got to do this multiplication right here first. Look, we can't do what's in the parentheses because there's not like terms, so we've got to multiply next. So minus 7 times 9 is minus 63. Minus 7 times positive 3x is minus 21x. Now I have some like terms. I've got a 21x and a 1x. So I need to do a 1 minus 21x, which is negative 20x. So it's negative 20x minus 63. Number 13. 14 minus 3 times in parentheses 8w minus 5. Now this is one that's easy to get wrong because your brain wants to do 14 minus 3. But look, that's subtraction. And remember when we talked about order of operations, add and subtract comes last. This 3 times has to be done first, and it has to be distributed. So it's 14 minus 3 times 8 is going to be 24w. It's going to be a minus because a minus and a plus 8. And then a minus times a minus is a plus 15. And now I have like terms. 14 and 15 can be added, so it's negative 24w plus 29. Because I can combine the 14 and the plus 15 because they're like terms. They're both numbers. Number 14. 8 in parentheses x plus y minus 5 times in parentheses x minus y. So it's going to be 8x plus 8y. Remember, it gets distributed. This is times both. And then be careful. Minus 5x plus 5y. And that's where you might make the mistake. You've got a minus and a minus, which make a plus. I do have some like terms. I've got 8 minus 5, or 3x, and 8 plus 5, or plus 13y. So my final answer is 3x plus 13y.